Hello again. I've got another one here for us. This time involving Aviva and them having a what appears to be discriminatory new hiring policy. We'll get straight into this. This is on GB News. I'll put the link below. If you give us a bit, if you give them a bit of traffic, obviously, as I always say, it helps them with their website and all that. I'm not sponsored by them either. Just to make that very clear. But it's the least we can do is just to give them the footfall over their websites, just to help them with their business models. So let's crack on. Diversity madness. Aviva Insurance says all new white male recruits must be personally signed off by a CEO. So, where's that gone? I've just killed the screen. 1 second as it opens up again. If it opens up again, come on. That's it. Slower than all people doing the no pants dance. Amanda Blank wants to get more women into senior roles at the company. The female CEO, and I've said this in multiple videos, a lot of these things that I get, and before I carry on with this, I'm sure there's plenty of firms out there run by women which are run absolutely fine. It just seems to be that all this madness that we're getting at the moment, all this woke craziness, seems to be coming down to female CEOs and female directors. That does seem to be the recurring theme that I'm noticing. And what is it about this that's happening? And even where there is been examples of it being male CEOs, I wouldn't be surprised if you dug into the details more. You'd find that there would be female heads of HR departments sort of goading behind them to push the woke madness. It's just a theory. I've no evidence to back it up, obviously, but that's just my gut feeling, and I'm going with it. The female CEO of insurance company Aviva said that the senior white male recruits must get the final sign-off by herself as part of the firm's aims to improve diversity. Well, that's a little bit deceptive by GB News, because obviously the header made it seem like it was all positions. I still don't agree with it. I still think it's a scummy thing to do. As I've said in other videos, it should purely be down on any job on merit of ability. And I'll use the same analogy again. If you were in hospital needing a triple heart bypass, do you want the surgeon who's there because they fill the correct quotas for whatever you want to imagine for whatever minority group, or do you want the surgeon who's the best person for the job? Me personally, I want the most qualified and most competent surgeon opening my body up and having a route around. If you're only there because you tick a box, I don't really want you working on my body. Thank you. Go deal with somebody else. Other people will appreciate your diversity. Thank you. Amanda Blank, who became the company's first CEO in 2020, has brought in the policy in order to eliminate sexism in the financial services industry. Well, there can't be that much sexism if she's become the CEO, can there? You know, woman becomes CEO of financial company, claims sexism. You can't make it up, can you? Speaking to a parliamentary committee, she said that there is a no non-diverse hire at Aviva without it being signed off by me and the chief people officer. So really, they're discriminating against white men. I've got a feeling that this won't affect homosexual men. This will be heterosexual white men. And more specifically, when they say white men, I don't think they're going to mean people from, say, Poland or Hungary. This is going to be people who are primarily of an Anglo-Saxon and or Celtic descent, in my opinion. Not because I don't trust my team, but because I want to make sure that the process followed for that recruitment has been diverse, has been properly done, and is not just a phone call to a mate saying, would you like a job? Pop up and we'll fix it up for you. She said at the Sexism in the City inquiry yesterday. Well, the thing about NIMBYism like that is usually people who do very specific types of work, especially when you're higher up, tend to know other people who do very similar work very high up. So they tend to already know the people who are competent and who aren't. And NIMBYism, although it can be incredibly damaging and bad, isn't necessarily always a bad thing either. Rather, I mean, what am I going to apply for that job and get considered then? I've no experience in the financial sector. but it would be surely it would be discriminatory not to allow me to apply for the job and have a realistic chance of getting the job. And somewhere between what I've said and NIMBYism, there's got to be an equilibrium somewhere. With the NIMBYism, I'd probably say as long as they are actually going through the hiring process properly and the person who's recommended them isn't decided on the job applicant getting the job, I think that's fair enough. Her comments only apply to senior staff at Aviva, which is a workforce of 22,000. Explaining her role in signing off senior hiring, she said, the scope of the charter is to get more women into senior management roles. Why? I mean, I've nothing against more women getting into senior management roles, but why do you specifically want more women in senior management roles? What do you actually achieve if, other than different faces doing the jobs? If they aren't more competent at them jobs, why would you want those people in those jobs? And flip that around. If it ended up being 100% women, and the only people applying for those jobs who were competent were more women, why would you want to force men into those positions if they aren't as competent? It makes no sense. As a business strategy, it seems quite self-destructive, and I think long term is going to end up with serious negative outcomes and probably lawsuits as well. She was speaking to the committee as part of its third public hearing of whether sexism has improved in London since 2018, when the last investigation was held. Well, the problem is as well, and I've no experience of it, but I would absolutely say yes, it has improved, especially if you go back to say like the 1990s. The thing is though, is that what is defined as sexism today would have got laughed at 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So it's what tool are you using to measure sexism? What definitions are you using? And this is the problem that we've been seeing, as I've spoken in another video about with #MeToo, where there was a lot of cases coming forward of sexual assault where it was a male colleague being asked by a female colleague to help at a computer, let's say, and the male colleague would lean over a shoulder and put his hand on her shoulder to look at the work, so he'd be like sort of pointing at the screen whilst talking to her, which is quite a normal, natural thing to do. But there were people losing their careers and getting accused of sexual impropriety for what is basically an innocuous thing to do. And this is the issue that we've got, is where these terms have become so open-ended, where they could literally apply to absolutely any interaction whatsoever. It was launched after an influx of accusations of sexual misconduct shook the business industry, including scandals at the Confederation of British Industry, CBI, and allegations against Brexit donor and hedge fund manager Crispin Odey. I don't know anything about that. I've never even heard that man's name before, so I can't comment on that at all. Blanc told the Treasury Select Committee that the financial services industry is rife with harassment, more so than any other business sector. Well, how do they know that? Have they worked in the other business sectors? I mean, what definitions of sexism? I'm not denying that this is true, but I don't just, unfortunately, after what's happened over the last 10 years, I don't take these claims on face value anymore. And the whole believe victims, well, I'm afraid they did that in America in the early 1920s and before that. They believed lots of women without question, and it ended up with a lot of innocent black men getting hung from trees. So I'm afraid, especially as we like the BLM riots and stuff as well, I've become very very jaded, so to speak, on a lot of these talking points. She told MPs that while she had some very positive experiences in the sector, many women do not. On another point as well, before anybody says that I'm just some bigoted man, or that I'm a sexist, or whatever you want to call me, I do have a vested interest in women actually having a good crack at the whip and being treated well in society. Not only because I obviously have a mother, but I have 2 sisters as well, but I also have 3 daughters, and I want them to grow up with great opportunities and to be treated with dignity and respect. However, I don't want them to be not believed because claims of sexism or sexual assault or whatever have been so blown out of proportion as to it now to it becoming like the boy who cried wolf syndrome. And that's the issue that we're getting at the moment, is there's been far too much boy who cried wolf, or girl who cried wolf, we should say. The Aviva CEO said she'd spoken to women who had written to her ahead of the hearing. She said they had shared with her absolutely appalling stories of harassment, including unwanted sexual advances, being followed into hotel rooms, or being told their pregnancies were inconvenient for the firm. Now, that is awful. The first two, the unwanted sexual advances and being followed into hotel rooms, absolutely shocking. But even with an unwanted sexual advance, what is it? I mean, humans, is that a man walking up to a woman and saying, "You're right, love, how you doing? You wanna come out for a meal with me later and maybe come back to mine for a cup of coffee?" You know what I mean? Basically doing a cold approach as would have been normal. Is it are people finding a lot of those things now to be unwanted and harassment because they're being taught that that's unwanted and harassment? Followed into hotel rooms, that could just be miscommunication. Now, I'm not saying I don't know what has happened in that circumstance. I'm just trying to. I mean, if the guy's followed her in and refused to leave and been very forward and aggressive in trying to insist on staying, that's absolutely shocking. But if he's just like escorted her up to a room and thought, "Oh, I'm in here," and then she's opened the door, gone in the room, and he's gone to follow her, and she's turned around and gone, "No, sorry, mate, you ain't coming in," and he's gone, "Oh, sorry," then that's not really sexual harassment. That's just misunderstanding and miscommunication, I'm afraid. And I'm not sympathetic to a circumstance like that. But as I say, if he's barged in and almost refused to leave, then that will be very intimidating and scary for a woman. So depending on the circumstances, depends on how I feel with that. The pregnancies thing, I mean, that's just absolutely disgusting. I'm a father of 4 children, and if I knew somebody had said that to my ex-wife at the time, if she was employed, I would have gone into that place and I would have lamped him in the face. So that's just absolutely unacceptable to say that. Blank told MPs every individual firm has to be accountable for any allegations such as this, and the women in the firm have to know that there is a process for speaking up. That process will be acted on. That process will be acted on, I should say. That everything will be investigated, and that the person who did the bad leaves the organisation, not the woman. There's an assumption there that the woman is telling the truth and the man has done the bad. What if she's lying? And this is where I start to get umbrage with these sort of things. What if she's engaging in reputational destruction because he's turned her advances down, and that does happen? That she feels ashamed or she now feels vindictive against him. What if she's a woman who just likes drama? And they do exist. I'm sure any women watching this, I'm sure you can remember back to, say, being at school or college or whatever, and knowing various girls who were very manipulative and enjoyed playing games and enjoyed spreading rumours around in order to cause social carnage, so to speak. We've all met these people. They do exist, and they are out there in the wild in society. I don't like that solid approach of saying, no, we are going to just believe women. That is very dangerous. That is guilty without trial. Habeas corpus all the way. I know this isn't obviously a court, but it doesn't matter. And this will end up with lawsuits. There was the case, I'll see about doing a video about this as well, in America, where there was a young gentleman got kicked out of Harvard. He was accused of forcing himself onto a female student, and they basically did a show trial. It's like a communist-style show trial where it was already decided before the end of the trial even finished. Anyway, he ended up suing him for, I think, about $100 million because it was all proven that she made it up. Very convincingly proven as well, because he took it to an actual court and not a show trial court in the university. I think that was Harvard. 99% certain it was Harvard. And we have had experience like that at Aviva, where the woman has stayed and the man has gone. She added, politicians were extremely shocked by the hearing's testimonies, with Dame Angela Eagle saying that she was shocked to hear about a series of well-known bad apples that nobody ever does anything about. Yeah, well, that happens in every firm, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to make excuses for that. But that's part of human nature, is people covering up for the favourites. I don't know how you deal with that. It's not right, and that does need dealing with. The CEO has often spoken out about the sexism that she has faced during her career. Well, it's not stopped her in a job, has it? I mean, everybody gets negative things happening to them through their life. Men make up over 90% of assault victims. Men are nearly 10 times more likely to get assaulted than women. Hit. You know, this is. I think the difference is I think men are. And I'm not being absolute here because it's obviously everybody's different, but I think men in general are a bit more resilient to this sort of thing because people just don't care when men complain about stuff. Is the short answer to it, you know. It's like when as a man, I experience this all the time. I'll be walking down the street, and people will cross the road. Women will cross the road, to get away from me. And I'm just minding my own business. It's just the male experience, really. I think if women tried living as a man for a day, they'd feel incredibly lonely, incredibly quickly. Last year, at the firm's annual general meeting, Blank was told she was not the man for the job and was asked whether she would be wearing trousers. She slammed the comments as unacceptable behaviour. Get over yourself. Which she says has become more frequent and obvious the higher the career ladder she has climbed. Yeah, well, it's because it's competitive, and that's what competitive people do. They start getting sharp elbows and they start testing each other, trying to wind each other up and trying to make people give up and get out of their way because they want to climb the ladder as well. That's a natural part of human behaviour. And if she can't psychologically cope with that, then she shouldn't be in that position because it's clearly too much stress for her. She might have the physical the skills to do the job in it of itself, but she may not have the acumen for coping with the stresses that come with that job. Perpetrators of predatory behaviour need to leave the business, she said. Well, only if they actually do anything wrong in that regard, But a bit of a controversial topic, and I know some of my opinions may be deemed as quite controversial or I might rile a few people up. Unfortunately, I don't care in that regard. They're my opinions. I'm sticking to them. But that's part of the problem with society is that people who hold strong opinions haven't been saying them. And that's part of what this channel's about, is getting strong opinions out there and trying to get us back onto being a functioning society again. Anyway, if I've given you so much to think about and you found that informative, please like, subscribe, and give us a comment below. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye.